Warriors can trade a Malcolm Brogdon. A definer. Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. Warriors have obvious path to stealing Malcolm Brogdon from Knicks. Brogdon remains one of the more notable free agents left on the market, having won Sixth Man of the Year with the Boston Celtics just 2 years ago. Depending on the Knicks' belief in young guard Tyler Kolek, Brogdon could prove a savvy signing to back up and even occasionally play alongside franchise star Jalen Brunson. But if Brogdon is on New York's radar, as insider Ian Begley of SNY recently stated, then why hasn't he signed? Perhaps it's got something to do with the Knicks only being able to offer a minimum contract, and the 32-year-old looking to avoid the stature of being a veteran minimum player as he enters the latter portion of his career. Knicks have had dialogue with free agent Ben Simmons over the course of the offseason and certainly have had interest in him, but club has never made a formal offer to Simmons, per league sources. Landry Shamet, Malcolm Brogdon among those on NYK radar for its lone roster spot. If that is the case, then the Warriors have an obvious path to stealing Brogdon from the Knicks' grasp. However, it would require Jonathan Kuminga to accept his $7.9 million qualifying offer, as many are now expecting, something that would be a disaster for Golden State even if it gives them an easier avenue to Brogdon. Having Kuminga sign the qualifying offer would allow the Warriors to open up the full non-taxpayer mid-level exception. In that instance, rather than sign Al Horford to the taxpayer MLE and be limited to minimum contracts with their other signings, Golden State could split the non-taxpayer MLE into multiple players. If the Warriors were truly interested in Brogdon, it would give them access to paying him a little more than the vet minimum, which would very likely sway the former Rookie of the Year from the Knicks and Minnesota Timberwolves. There's still a lot to play out before that point is reached, and we still don't know how interested in Brogdon the Warriors truly are, but the rising likelihood of Kuminga taking the qualifying offer does present a clear path to crushing the hopes of Knicks fans who want to see the 9-year veteran in the Big Apple. Jonathan Kuminga continues to absolutely screw the Warriors as free agency wraps. As the Golden State Warriors near the start of training camp, there still appears to be little to no movement on the Jonathan Kuminga front, meaning that it is highly unlikely that a deal is reached until the October 1st deadline for the young forward to take his qualifying offer. Therefore, the recent resolution to both Cam Thomas's and Josh Giddey's restricted free agencies, with the Brooklyn Nets and Chicago Bulls respectively, becomes more and more frustrating as Kuminga continues to hold out, preventing the Warriors from finalizing their roster in what will be an all-important season for them. Although Kuminga is certainly within his rights to wait as long as wants to return to Golden State, especially given the way the organization has approached negotiations, his unwillingness to move one way or the other could absolutely screw the Warriors as the season gets closer and closer. Restricted free agency is coming to an end, but Jonathan Kuminga still hasn't budged. As the offseason has dragged on, Kuminga and the front office have remained at an impasse regarding the terms of a potential 2-year, $45 million contract that would allow the young forward to be dealt at some point this next season. Although Kuminga came into the offseason seeking an annual value around $30 million, a cold market has made it clear that this would not be a possibility for Kuminga until he reaches unrestricted free agency. Moreover, the Warriors' attempts to facilitate a sign-and trade for the young forward netted underwhelming results, with no teams being willing to offer the unprotected first-round pick that the Warriors desired to be included in such a deal. Therefore, as Thomas has taken his qualifying offer and Giddey has compromised with his organization, signing a 4-year, $88 million deal, Kuminga remains frustratingly in limbo. At this point, either of these two options would be preferable to the state that Golden State is left in at the moment. While Kuminga taking the qualifying offer would be disastrous for the organization from a value perspective, forcing them to lose him in unrestricted free agency next offseason, it at least would allow for some sort of a resolution. If Kuminga and the organization had come to a middling compromise on, say, a 2-year, $24 million deal with a player option after the second year, they would be following the model that allowed Giddey to return to Chicago, and the team would have their financial outlook set more concretely for next season. Now, however, the Warriors are left with 6 open roster spots and no power to fill them until Kuminga signs, which looks like it will not happen until training camp has already begun. Therefore, as Golden State enters a highly important season as they attempt to maximize what is left of Stephen Curry's career, the resolutions to both Thomas's and Giddey's restricted free agency make the lingering Kuminga situation even more frustrating. Warriors could reunite with Kelly Oubre Jr. using the trade exception. In terms of obvious players that could be acquirable with the trade exception, Kelly Oubre Jr. is a realistic name given his recent emergence onto the trade market. According to Bleacher Report's Jake Fisher last week, the Philadelphia 76ers could be looking to move Oubre or veteran center Andre Drummond in order to accommodate a new contract for restricted free agent Quentin Grimes. Oubre would fit into the trade exception given he makes $8.4 million on the final years of his deal, though it would likely take some other roster moves to make happen and ensure the Warriors remain below the first tax apron. That hasn't stopped Bleacher Report's Andy Bailey from recently mentioning Golden State as one of 4 potential trade destinations for Oubre if Philadelphia is eager to move on from the veteran wing. Fans would likely hope for a little more efficient use of the team's trade exception, but that could make acquiring Oubre relatively easy, Bailey wrote. At least in theory, a downhill scoring threat like Oubre should be able to pull some defenses inward and away from shooters like Stephen Curry, Buddy Hield, and Brandon Podziemski. If the 76ers are simply looking for salary relief, then Oubre should come cheaply to whichever team acquires him in a trade. Yet while that may be the case, it doesn't mean the Warriors should be interested in what would quite frankly be an absurd move given their history with the 29-year-old. Oubre did post over 15 points and 6 rebounds during his one-year stint with Golden State in 2021-22. But his short time with the franchise was plagued by concerns surrounding his fit alongside Stephen Curry and within Steve Kerr's offense. Going back to that now wouldn't be a recipe for success as the Warriors look to build another contender around Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. Not to mention you'd have both Kuminga and Oubre on the roster, 2 similar scoring forwards who've each had their issues aligning to the team ideals. How the Golden State Warriors have crushed second-round drafting. Following a 2022 NBA Finals victory, the Golden State Warriors have swapped out the championship core of veterans for a new crop of young talent. In the 3 drafts following, Golden State used second-round picks to add rotational players, hitting on the later picks with a higher rate than most other organizations. 3 of those second-round picks contributed rotational minutes in the Warriors' first-round playoff series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, proving their value. Hitting on late draft picks is crucial for contending teams, as it helps to round out back-end roster talent with solid players on cheap contracts, allowing teams to pay their top dogs, Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, for Golden State. Let's take a look back on recent second-round hits for the Bay Area. Quentin Post. The Warriors selected Post with the number 52 pick in the 2024 NBA Draft following the departure of Dario Saric. Post played 5 seasons in college, spending his last 3 at Boston College. In his senior season in the Atlantic Coast Conference, Post averaged 17 points, 8.1 rebounds, and 2.9 assists while shooting 43.1% from three-point range, emerging as one of the nation's top shooting bigs. He'd do the same thing when arriving to Golden State, averaging 8.1 points while shooting 40.8% from beyond the arc, ranking 3rd among all rookies to attempt at least 53 pointers. Post played a valuable role as a floor spacer next to Curry, Butler and Green, and will likely do so for the remainder of his tenure with the Warriors. Tracy Jackson Davis. Golden State picked Jackson Davis with the number 57 pick of the 2023 NBA Draft, adding the athletic rim runner out of Indiana to their frontcourt rotation. He's blossomed into a quality center for the Warriors, 53 games in his first 2 seasons with the team, operating as a fun option in the pick-and-roll and transition outlet. Across his 2 seasons, he averaged 7.3 points, 5 rebounds, and 0.9 blocks per game while shooting 64.2% from the field. He ranks 8th in rebounds per game among 2023 to 2024 rookies to play at least 50 games since the start of that season, proving value as a rim runner in the late round. Jackson Davis has played a larger role with the Warriors than any other number 57 pick in the last 25 drafts, proving to be another hidden gem found by Golden State. Gue Santos. The Warriors took forward Gue Santos with the number 55 pick in the 2022 NBA Draft. In the ensuing seasons, Santos would split time between the Warriors' main roster and the G League affiliate, the Santa Cruz Warriors. He appeared in 56 games in the 2024-2025 season, averaging 4.1 points, 3.1 rebounds, and 1.4 assists per game while shooting 33% from deep and operating as a switchable defender on the wing. The 23-year-old still has potential to improve in a larger role as the Warriors shuffle the depth chart with new acquisitions, but he's still already past his value at the number 55 pick. DeMarcus Cousins reveals how Warriors can contend with Stephen Curry in 2025. The obvious question for the Golden State Warriors for the upcoming season is Stephen Curry's health. While he's projected to return fully healed from his hamstring injury, it will be interesting to see if he can stay on the floor for a long period, given his history of physical issues. But when Curry is 100%, there's no question that he can almost single-handedly lead the Warriors. At 37 years old, he remains the team's barometer. When he went down in their second-round series against the Minnesota Timberwolves in last season's playoffs, it spelled doom for Golden State. For former NBA star DeMarcus Cousins, who played one season with the Warriors, it's never a good call to write off Curry and company. He said he can still see the Larry O'Brien Trophy returning to the Bay Area. You combine the history of this team, with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, and you add a winner like Jimmy Butler to that puzzle, it's giving some type of success, said Cousins on Run It Back. I do think they have a chance at getting one more title before this dynasty is actually over. You know, the guys are up in age, things of that nature, but they're talented enough, they're experienced enough, and they're good enough to get another in the next couple of years. The Warriors have been shy about admitting that they're maximizing their window with Curry. Last season, he reached at least 70 games for the second straight campaign. He, however, saw his scoring dip to 24.5 points, his lowest since 2017-18, excluding his 5-game stint in 2019-20. The team hasn't made big moves this offseason to surround the two-time MVP with more talent. Still, the 35-year-old Cousins, who last played in Puerto Rico, stressed that Golden State will always be a contender as long as Chef Curry is in the kitchen. One thing about the Warriors, when they have a good defensive team, they're always a threat. They're always going to be a threat with Steph Curry, said the four-time All-Star. The Warriors finished with a 48-34 record last season and returned to the playoffs after a one-year absence. Warriors starting 5 when they sign entire waiting room. The Warriors have been the quietest team in free agency. Not because they lack needs. Far from it. Golden State only has 9 players under contract. That number is not enough to meet the league's minimum floor of 14 players to start the season. The Warriors' starting 5 will quickly take shape once their biggest domino falls. Warriors starting 5 when they sign entire waiting room. Kuminga stalemate freezes the market. Their offseason has stalled around Jonathan Kuminga. His contract standoff has handcuffed the front office. His cap hold has frozen their ability to add reinforcements. Recent signals point to Kuminga taking his qualifying offer. The deadline is October 1st. That decision will unlock whatever comes next. In the meantime, a waiting room has formed. Quietly pleading for clarity is how Monty Poole of NBC Sports described the group of veterans ready to sign. They wait on Kuminga's decision to see if the Warriors can free up room. Horford, Melton, and Payton in line. Kevin Looney left for New Orleans after feeling undervalued. That exit leaves a hole in the Warriors' frontcourt. Al Horford is expected to fill it. The 39-year-old still offers stability, shooting, and veteran presence. DeAnthony Melton and Gary Payton II are also lined up to join. Malcolm Brogdon's interest is uncertain. The Knicks and Timberwolves remain in the mix. For now, Seth Curry becomes the likely replacement in the rotation. His family ties to the franchise make the fit obvious. The projected Warriors starting 5. Reports suggest Horford would start if he signs. Add Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, that's 3 locks. The final spot? Brandon Podziemski. Podziemski played the 4th most playoff minutes last year, trailing only the Warriors' core. His 11.7 points per game during the regular season on efficient splits make him the safe choice. That gives Golden State a projected Warriors starting 5 of Curry, Podziemski, Butler, Green, Horford. A mix of aging icons and a young glue. Depth will define the season. The bench features Kuminga, Moses Moody, Payton, Buddy Hield, Quinton Post, Melton, and Tracy Jackson-Davis. Kerr has long trusted deep rotations, sometimes going 11 or 12 players. Scoring depth is not the issue. Last year, Golden State ranked 3rd in bench scoring. Adding Melton strengthens that strength. The younger Curry will likely play sparingly, with guard minutes already crowded. The stakes of Kuminga's choice. If Kuminga accepts his qualifying offer, the Warriors gain extra breathing room under the tax. That opens the non-taxpayer mid-level, roughly $14.1 million, to divide among their waiting room. It means Horford, Melton, and Payton can step into uniform. It means the Warriors' starting 5 finally takes shape. Until then, uncertainty rules. The roster remains thin. But once the stalemate breaks, expect the Warriors to act fast. Their rotation will be a formidable threat in the West provided the coaching staff manages its old core well over the course of the season.